I'm sorry that it's come to this, but I'm going to have to ask you people out there who believe in coincidence to turn on another channel. Go on. Turn on something else. All right. Try and pick it back up where we were, sort of. May I have the privilege of telling you that all truly civilized, intelligent, up-to-date people want to forge ahead, intellectually speaking, thought-wise. And no matter what it's called, wherever they were, wherever they are now, under whatever guise, whatever terminology, it's called what they are, in another sense, wanting to do, everyone, is to think independently. They are wanting to be mentally creative. We mentioned that last time, but that is, for those of you named Jack, a fact. It can be called under religious names and people saying they want to see God or that they want to see what Judge Crater looked like before the unfortunate incident. Or they can say that they want to be, who knows what, more attractive, more famous. But when it gets into that which actually separates man from his fellow creatures, at least in some cases. Well, I told you people to turn on another channel anyway who take that personally. See, people who look like other species are very inclined to believe in coincidence. Now, I don't mean that personally, because I asked you to change channels. That one guy looks just like a beaver. Was I seeing my reflection in the... Oh. No matter what it is called, for the purposes that I suggest is more up to date for a few people, no matter what it was called in the past, no matter what it's thought of now, all of it has to do with the fact of man being an open-ended, an unfinished piece of work, and what he is trying to do, from one very valid and useful view, I suggest, is what he is trying to do is not save his soul, not trying to speak to the cosmic spirits. What he is trying to do is actually think independently or be mentally creative. And yet, oh my God, and yet, now we're up to where we were. And yet, even though that be absolutely true, when it gets down to the ordinary, everyday, operational level at which an individual lives, what this proves to be is that an individual man, can really only handle, for instance, a retelling of Confucius-ness and not the appearance of a new Confucius. Based upon the balance, based upon the very efficient use of polarized energy, again, nothing being wrong, but it's the basis that so much of humanity, which serves the purpose also, believes that something is amiss, as humans being contemporaneously driven to say something. That is, to say that what I would like to have, my good man, is some caviar, when in fact it's not true. They are actually only asking for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So you have people, don't lose your place. We have people all over the planet that all they've got to do is just meet the minimal requirement of being just civilized, up-to-date, intelligent, just same as you and me and your Uncle Floyd. Well, you and me. They are striving to think independently. They are striving to be that which, if you recall what we were saying last time, would be that which I was suggesting, the reality represented by the figures in history, such as a Confucius, who I was suggesting to you further did not come up with new information so much as he made up some new information. So you have people attempting, all humans being driven to try and think independently, and to do that they would be calling out for something of some quality. Yes, I would like to have some caviar. And the proof being, if you need proof, that they will, we can do it the easy way, I hate to, but I just said that, I don't hate to, is that they will settle for peanut butter and jelly. That shouldn't prove anything. The proof is to understand that that's the way it operates. All it is a reflection of the fact that man is never finished, and so therefore he is driven by life itself, and it comes out in words. He is driven to say, well, I want to go. We can change parables in midstream or allegories. It's like a man standing in Houston saying, I want to go to Pittsburgh. That is my desire in life. And the truth is, he doesn't really want to get much further than perhaps Little Rock. And it's simply a fact. There's nothing wrong. People are not stupid. And you can look at it on the basis, I said, you're surrounded by it. And you're filled with it yourself. That you are driven to say, well, I want so-and-so. I will settle for nothing less than, and fill in a blank. And then look at life. And my good man and my good woman, you and everybody else will settle for a whole lot. A real whole lot. A double whole lot. A real whole lot less. Now, every now and then someone will attempt to write a poem or a country and western song about that, or they'll make fun of their neighbors. Well, yeah, I remember I used to know you back in high school, and you said, when I grow up, I'm going to be rich and famous. And here you are driving a cab. Now, you can do that. That's part of the energy flow between people. But to think that that is some kind of anomaly, you would have to be an anomaly doubled. It is what appeared to be, from very, if I made it too confusing, from very simple views, people seem to fall short, by and large, oftentimes, of their proclaimed goals. And ordinary people might go, my, how sad, I'm glad I tuned this show in, because for a while I didn't think you were ever going to get around to anything sad and important. But now you're getting down to it. You're pointing out that, no, people are by and large failures, that life is just, one thing after another stepping on your toes. Yeah, toes. They asked me not to, well, I ask you people to change channel. But there is nothing sad. There is nothing unusual. If there's anything unusual, to really get off the subject, is that people continue after 5,000 or 6,000 years, and sometimes even less, to say, my, how amazing it is that otherwise fairly intelligent people will stand right up and make complete public asses of themselves by saying, well, what I'm going to do is such and such. And if they had a modicum of intelligence, they wouldn't put themselves on a line like that, because by and large people fail. Now, I don't want to talk about myself, because I've had unusual problems, which I don't have time to go into. I'm talking from an ordinary person. Anything unusual would be if somebody looked around and thought, gee whiz, do you realize that history is full of, and I've just added two, the cash, of people pointing at other people and going, my, how strange, they attempted to go all the way from Houston to Pittsburgh, and not a damn one of them got much further past East Memphis. My, what in the world is going on with life? Is life such a curse? Are people so dumb? Does anybody understand? I've been trying to get around sometime to talk about the double whammy of stupidity. I'll think of some name for it. It's such as this. We've had several examples. I can think of a better one, but I think I'll save it. That you have people continually intelligent people, historians, thinkers, etc., pointing out that life is full of, and they love to find examples. They love to find where the Pope tripped. They love to find where a rabbi mispronounced a name. They love to find where a president turned around to make an important gesture to a crowd and he was in the wrong country and made the wrong gesture. All of that they love because they love to hear that people attempted to do something and what? Failed. What is history? I mean, some of you got a history book at home. Go back and look. And it looks like, well, they got up, then they fell. Then they got up, then they fell. Then his brother came along and took over, and then he fell. It's like as though ordinary people believe I have made an important personal discovery. That means, I think, what does that mean? Give me a break. How far is it possible? May I ask a musical question, since the show went off the air? Name that idiot. No, name that tune. How far can one get off the subject and still reel oneself back in? Somebody wrote Kyroot a letter one time asking that, and I refused to let Kyroot read on the air because the person asked the letter damn near 17 years after the fact. So imagine what if the person got a response. Now imagine that none of that took place, and imagine what it was you asked yourself 17 years ago, how can I press on with this folly? And if you ever came to your senses, you went, what folly is that? And then another 17 years went by and you went, being me. See, and then it doesn't make any sense. If you're ordinary, because you think, well, I'm just getting old. Back to where we were. Everyone is attempting to think independently. That's what, trust me, that's what you want. Anybody that was watching this program, people that show up for this sort of thing throughout history, I could call it other things, and it's been called other things. But you are attempting to think independently as opposed to what we've been describing for the last few weeks as that other source from which everyone's mind comes. It is the only thing that will fire up. It's the first fuel. It is the first ignition. It is inescapable that what we were calling the collective source of thought, the collective pool of thinking. It is from that everybody's mind, the man from Marathon comes up with a torch, he touches you on the brain, and it goes. But remember, he came from a crowd of people. That's where everybody's mind starts. On that basis is what I'm trying to get you to consider another kind of view, that everyone's desire who is sane, civilized, just ordinary, up-to-date people, in a sense, people who want to get rich, people who wish they were better looking, this becomes a matter of shaving it closer and closer because it gets closer into the primary world of sex and etc. And yet if they're still civilized and more or less up-to-date, even people who say, well, my whole life is wrapped around the body. All I love to do is eat and screw and sleep. If they're up-to-date and they're living in this world, that could be more true than somebody who's sitting around trying to starve themselves and engage in some sort of meditation and read philosophical books. You could say that the second, relatively speaking, might be closer to a living example of what I'm speaking of, but it's irrelevant because you've got to remember that those different time zones create this planet. You cannot have it being 12 o'clock everywhere. If there was only Greenwich time on this planet, there'd be no time. If it was only you, if we called it the latitudes, A latitudes, and it was one time zone of the evolution, the progress of the human intellect, and there was not the next latitude, the B and the C and the D, there'd be no latitudes. I knew you'd follow that. At any rate, still, even though it's a matter, you could say, of certain relative view, which has no bearing on it, everyone is still trying to think independently. That is what they're after, is that their mind, their nervous system itself, is wishing that it could operate in a way that was somewhere a little ahead, that they would like to be able, thought-wise, to forge ahead, to move away. The fact that they cannot or do not want to have, allegorically speaking, absolutely new information, and I was making it personalized, which makes it easier to start with. They do not want a new Confucius to show up. They want somebody to give a revision of Confucianness. I know Confucianism, but I'm trying to get you to look at it another way. They want whatever that represented, assuming that you were wired up in such a way, and you're at the right time, the right place on this planet, that Confuciusness seemed to be, that might be the trick, that might be the hint, there might be information there that could help me, F.A., forge ahead. I've read the books, I've tried my best, but I seem to have hit sort of a blank wall. If I just had somebody to help me. Ye gads, what if I'd been alive 5,000 years ago and could have actually seen the old man? Again, it's a dream. It's like, dare I order caviar? I want to. And you're about to, and the waitress looks at you and says, I don't know, you look like about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich man to me. And you go, please, please. So you understand, it is that people are driven. They've got to be driven, or they wouldn't be driven. And so people are dreaming, and they will say, if asked, life will make them say, what I want is new information. What I want is that would actually fire up me in such a way that I could think outside what everybody else is thinking. Again, remember, for those of you who are watching, and I told you to quit watching, we're not talking about insanity. It doesn't take any effort to go crazy, does it? You don't need to watch a show to go nuts. We're talking about ordinary people, to be able to think outside of what everybody else is thinking. And then when you get good, you don't have to make hand gestures. You don't have to say, think outside what everybody else is thinking. You realize it's thinking outside what I'm thinking. But is that what people actually want? Want's a dangerous word. It can be misleading. Need is when I took the cheap way, the easy way to start with, and say, look at it the other way, is what will people be satisfied with? Because if you say, well, it's easy, verbally, to say, well, people say that they want to go all the way to Pittsburgh, but they don't. Or it's easy for people to say, God, I would love to have met Confucius. I'd give anything, and no, they don't. And you can say, well, yes, I do. I would have given anything. You can say that. But now look, if you've got to get a foot in the door, a nose inside the grindstone, look at it this way. People say, now I know they say they do, and stretch the allegory yourself, I don't have to, is people say, I want so-and-so, I want blank, I want to know it all, I want to talk to God, I want to understand the meaning of life, and I will not be satisfied by God until I do. Right, somewhere in that resides the kind of verbal mapping, the neural mapping of all of humanity who are sane, up to date. And if you tell people, which I just played the part, if you said, oh, you don't, you just say that, what kind of idiot would do that? Because then humanity can pull themselves upright and shoot you right down by saying, wrong. So what are we going to do? Get in some kind of cosmic shoving match? You don't really want to know the truth. You don't really want to talk to the gods. You just want somebody to pat you on the head. And they say, there's only the intelligent collective wisdom of humanity will say, no, I don't. Then, of course, you got to go away and regroup and think it out and come back and say, yeah, you do. So I was trying to give you a place to start, because you can do that to yourself. You could listen to this, and if you thought, well, this is worth considering, or I'll try. Do I really want to know something important? He says that I don't at the ordinary level. And you try to be sincere, and your mind says, well, you do. No, he's just wrong. And you think, well, yeah. But look at it this way. Now back to where this is the kind of thing that we could make one figure of speech or a song title for the night. Should shake the foundations of Nashville, but it won't. Humanity will say that. They've always said that. They have always, parts of life's body is continually having somebody stamp and accuse other parts. If you people are not, what it amounts to is, I think it's called in country music roll, and in the Vatican, the guilt trip. But life has always got somebody standing up going, you people are not doing as well as you could. And humanity goes, yeah, we are. I admit, it's not as good as I want to, but don't tell me I'm not doing as good as I can. Under the conditions, I am doing as good as I can. And then you're back to this. The critic can go away, ponder it, and come back and say, no, you're not. So, do you see there's no way out of that at that level? But here's the tricky part, that no one else can even see this. If that be true, if we took as a kind of working premise, or even a semi-premise, maybe a 16-wheeler premise, that people do want to know the truth. People do want to see Confucius, not a retelling. Let's assume for a second that that is a fact. They say it's true, and we're not going to say otherwise. Like they've been saying that has been recorded 5,000 or 6,000 years. They have been insisting that in every way possible. Then ask yourself this astounding, synaptic, shocking question. How do you explain the fact that they have day in, day out, upside down, around the corner, year in, year out, settled for less? And things gone along, might we say, quite swimmingly. We have progressed from eating out of pots to eating out of plastic McDonald containers. We live longer. Some of us look better. But for 6,000 years that you know of, men have been saying, we will not be satisfied with the paltry, unconclusive information we have. In other words, I will not be satisfied by God. I've tried to live a good life, and I'll continue to do so, and I'll try to help things out and pay my taxes. But by God, I want to talk to the head man. I want God, because I'm no dummy. I want the gods to come down here and talk to me, and I want to know what's going on, or I may not play. I may go ahead, since they can't make the movie, I'll live out Atlas Shrugged. I'm just going to stop. Humanity has been saying that forever. Can you hear it? The religions are full of it. Almost all of the holy books of every religion starts out with that. I know it reads otherwise, verbally, literally, but it starts out, what it's saying is, hey, to the gods, hey, come talk to me, or we ain't going to play anymore. They've been saying that. Notice, things have gone along quite well, and humanity has not quit playing. People have not starved to death, if I stretched it too far, forever and ever, as they're supposed to. From the day humans started talking, the first thing that humans said, all right, within 30 or 40 seconds, or 30 or 40 minutes if you're going to be picky about it, humans began to say, caviar over here, over here. They've been saying that. I mean, saying that in a quite straightforward manner. Oftentimes pushy even. Caviar over here for me and my friends. I said caviar, and I don't mean in that cheap stuff from fish farms out in Oklahoma. The Black Sea. They're saying that. Notice, no one has ever, well, just generally speaking, people do not dine on caviar. Humanity has been eating pork skins, peanut butter, and jelly sandwiches ever since they went, hey. And notice, things have not gone downhill. People have not starved. People have gotten fatter, stronger, better. Well, can you keep saying well and for 2 minutes? Didn't I see in a book something about TV that was supposed to be bad news, how dead time? No, that's radio. Radio, that's when it's really bad. Yeah, we're all right. Because television can go silent and you're watching the screen. You can go. We're not on radio, are we? That was I had it wrong. It's the radio handbook. Because, you know, if you got any sense, you realize that because if you're listening to a station or you turn on, you got already on your favorite station, and the guy, whoever's on the radio, because most people can't see anything if you just turn on the radio and you look at it, and so if you listen, and then you're inclined to turn the station off. That is interesting. That is the kind of information that a person can use. Well, that and finding out that only God can bite himself on the ass. Regardless of what that contortionist said, and by the way, they said it was a contortionist from Dublin, I think he's from Liverpool. Did that kill enough time? Turn on your radios. For those of you who have goiters and need healing, come up and place your hands on the radio. And those of you who have not sent in your money lately, be sure and stand in a pool of water as you do this.